The huge meeting hall on Nexus Prime was filled with strange sounds and smells. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked slowly across the smooth floor, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Above her head, the dome showed stars from across the galaxy. Each light represented a world that belonged to the Galactic Council. Sarah looked around at the 12 different alien species sitting in their special chairs. The Zerathi looked like giant lizards with glowing eyes. They had ruled their part of space for thousands of years. The Korthak were big and covered in thick armor. They loved war and fighting. The Valish had blue skin and moved like they were swimming through air. They controlled most of the galaxy's trade and money. In her hands, Sarah held a small device that could change everything. It was humanity's greatest invention, a machine that could give unlimited clean energy to any world. No more hunger. No more fighting over resources. No more poverty. Honored council members, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Today, humanity offers this gift freely to all species in the galaxy. She pressed a button and a hologram appeared above her head. It showed the energy device working on different planets. Desert worlds turned green, frozen planets became warm. Dead worlds came alive with cities and farms. The council members whispered among themselves in their strange languages. Sarah had spent years learning to read their expressions and body language. The Zerathi's eyes glowed brighter when they were interested. The Korthak's armor plates shifted when they were excited. The Valish changed color slightly when they felt strong emotions. All the signs looked good. Very good. Elder Zexthal of the Zerathi spoke first. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. This technology is impressive. Humanity has shown great wisdom in sharing this with the Council. War Chief Gorak of the Korthak slammed his massive fist on his chair's armrest. Humans fight with their minds instead of weapons. This is acceptable. Trademaster Vale Nara of the Valish floated higher in her chair. The economic benefits would be substantial for all member species. Sarah's heart pounded. She had dreamed of this moment for 10 years. Ever since humanity had first made contact with the galaxy, they had been treated like children. Always watched. Always questioned. Never fully trusted. The vote for humanity's full membership in the Galactic Council will now begin, announced the Council's ancient AI system. One by one, the species voted. Each yes made Sarah's smile grow wider. Even the 3 most powerful species, the ones who usually blocked human proposals, voted to accept humanity as the 13th full member. The vote is unanimous, the AI declared. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council with all rights and privileges. Sarah felt tears running down her face. She had done it. Humanity was finally equal to the other species. No more being treated like dangerous animals in a zoo. The celebration lasted for hours. Representatives from different species came to shake Sarah's hand or touch her shoulder in their traditional greeting ways. The Zerathi elder even gave her a small crystal that meant great respect in their culture. But 3 council members did not join the celebration for long. Elder Zexthal, War Chief Gorak, and Trademaster Vale Nara met in a private room deep inside the Nexus Prime station. The plan proceeds as discussed, Zexthal said quietly. His glowing eyes dimmed to show he was being very serious. Gorak checked his armor's communication system. My fleets are already moving to their positions. The humans will not see this coming. Vale Nara's blue skin turned slightly purple with satisfaction. The economic isolation protocols are ready. Once the military phase begins, we can strangle their trade completely. They had watched humanity for decades. At first, humans seemed weak and harmless. They had simple technology and small populations. But humans learned incredibly fast. Too fast. In just 50 years, humanity had gone from barely reaching their own moon to building cities on dozens of worlds. Their technology grew better every year. Their population expanded rapidly. Their influence in galactic politics increased constantly. Worst of all, other species liked humans. The younger races especially admired humanity's creativity and determination. Some had even started copying human ideas and methods. They will replace us if we do nothing, Zexthal continued. In another century, maybe less, humans will be the dominant species in the galaxy. Better to act now while we still have overwhelming advantages, Gorak agreed. Once they fully integrate their technology with other species, stopping them becomes much harder. Vale Nara pulled up holographic displays showing human colonies and trade routes. We have planted evidence in their computer systems. False military plans, fake communications between their colonies. When the time comes, it will look like humanity planned to conquer the galaxy all along. The three aliens had spent years preparing for this moment. They knew that simply voting against humanity would not work anymore. Too many species supported the humans now. Direct action was needed, but it had to look justified. The other council species would never support an unprovoked attack on humanity. So the attack would not be unprovoked. It would be self-defense against human aggression. Aggression that the three species would create themselves. Meanwhile, in the main celebration hall, Sarah was sending messages back to Earth and the human colonies. The news would reach every human world within days. Parties would start on 100 planets. Children would grow up knowing they were citizens of the galaxy, not just visitors. Ambassador Chen, called a voice behind her. She turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez, humanity's top expert on alien biology and culture. Elena had spent years on different worlds, learning about the council species. "Congratulations on your success," Elena said with a smile, but Sarah noticed something worried in her friend's eyes. "What's bothering you, Elena? This is the greatest day in human history." Elena looked around carefully to make sure nobody was listening. "Maybe, but I've been studying these species for a long time. The three most powerful ones. They don't like change. They especially don't like losing control. But they voted for us," Sarah pointed out. "Yes, they did, and that worries me more than if they had voted against us." Elena moved closer and lowered her voice. "Sarah, what if voting for us was part of a bigger plan?" Sarah felt a cold chill run down her back. "What kind of plan?" "Think about it. If they had voted against us, the other species would have been angry. Some might have left the council. But if they vote for us and then we do something terrible..." "Elena, you're being paranoid. Nothing is going to happen. We've won." But Elena's worried expression did not change. "I hope you're right, Sarah, I really do. Because if I'm right about this, what happens next is going to be very, very bad." The celebration continued around them, but both women felt a shadow falling over humanity's bright future. Far away, in the private meeting room, three of the galaxy's most powerful species finished planning humanity's destruction. The trap was set. Soon it would spring closed. And when it did, the galaxy would discover what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose. Admiral Marcus Webb was reviewing supply reports when the emergency alarm started screaming through his flagship. The sound meant only one thing. A colony was in serious trouble. Marcus had commanded the human defense fleet for 15 years. He was a calm man who rarely got excited about anything. But when his communications officer turned toward him with a pale face, Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal from New Geneva colony. It's bad, sir." New Geneva was one of humanity's most successful colonies. 2 million people lived there, growing food that fed dozens of other worlds. It had beautiful cities, peaceful farms, and the best schools in human space. Marcus had visited there just 6 months ago for his daughter's wedding. "Put it through," Marcus ordered. The message was broken and filled with static, but the words that came through made everyone on the bridge go silent. "Under attack. Ships everywhere. They came from nowhere. Orbital bombardment has started. Cities are burning. Please send help. They're killing everyone. God help us," and then the signal went dead. Marcus stared at the communications display. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard such terror in someone's voice. "Get me every ship we have," he said quietly. "We're going to New Geneva. Now." It took 8 hours for the human fleet to reach New Geneva's star system. 8 hours during which they received no more signals from the colony. 8 hours of terrible silence. When they arrived, Marcus wished they had stayed away. New Geneva was gone. The planet still existed, but the civilization on it had been completely destroyed. Huge craters covered what used to be cities. The oceans boiled from the heat of orbital bombardment. Smoke and ash blocked out the sun. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "I'm reading no life signs from the surface. None at all." Marcus gripped his chair's armrest so hard his knuckles turned white. 2 million people gone, just like that. "Launch rescue shuttles," he ordered. "Search for survivors. There have to be survivors." But deep down he knew they would find very few. The rescue teams worked for 3 days. They found less than 1,000 people alive, most of them badly injured. The survivors all told the same horrible story. The attack had come without warning. Massive alien ships had appeared in orbit around New Geneva. There had been no communication, no demands, no threats. The ships had simply started firing. But it was Lieutenant Sarah Kim who found the most disturbing evidence. She was searching through the ruins of the colony's main government building when her scanner detected something strange. "Admiral," she called over her radio. "You need to see this." Marcus flew down to the surface in his personal shuttle. Lieutenant Kim met him outside the destroyed building. "Sir, we found the colony's main computer core. Most of it was destroyed, but some files survived." She handed him a data pad. "These files weren't there before the attack. Someone put them in the system during the bombardment." Marcus read the files and felt sick. They were detailed military plans for human expansion across the galaxy. Plans to attack other species. Plans to take over Council worlds. Plans that made humanity look like the aggressor in a galactic war. But Marcus knew these plans were fake. Humanity had no intention of attacking anyone. They barely had enough ships to defend their own colonies. "There's more, sir," Lieutenant Kim continued. "We found weapons debris around the planet. The attackers used Zerathi plasma cannons, Korthak kinetic bombardment systems, and Valish stealth technology." Marcus felt the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. 3 Council species. The 3 most powerful species. The same 3 who had always opposed humanity's advancement. "They framed us," he said quietly. "They murdered 2 million innocent people, and then made it look like we were planning to attack them." But the worst was yet to come. Back on his flagship, Marcus received a message from the Galactic Council. It was a formal summons for Ambassador Sarah Chen to appear before an emergency session. The charges were conspiracy to commit genocide, planning unprovoked attacks on Council species, and violation of galactic peace accords. The evidence against humanity was substantial. Intercepted communications between human colonies discussing military buildups. Detailed attack plans found in human computer systems. Testimony from informants who claimed to have witnessed human preparations for war. Marcus knew it was all fake, but it looked very real. Over the next few days, more evidence appeared on human worlds. Computer files that showed up overnight. Communications that no one remembered sending. Weapons stockpiles that materialized in hidden locations. The 3 Council species had been planning this for years. They had planted false evidence throughout human space, waiting for the right moment to reveal it all. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving another message from Nexus Prime. It's Ambassador Chen." Sarah's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and scared. Behind her, Marcus could see the council chamber. "Marcus," she said, "they're going to vote. They have evidence that we're planning to attack them. I've seen it, and it looks real. Very real. Sarah, you know we would never." "I know that and you know that, but the evidence says otherwise. They're scared, Marcus. All of them. Even the species that used to support us." Marcus watched his friend and colleague try to defend humanity against charges they both knew were false. But the evidence was too good. Too detailed. Too convincing. "The vote will happen in 6 hours, Sarah continued. "I've done everything I can, but I don't think it's going to be enough." 6 hours later, the Galactic Council voted to strip humanity of all galactic citizenship. Humans were banned from Council space. All trade agreements were canceled. All diplomatic relations were cut. Humanity was completely alone. But the Council wasn't finished. War Chief Gorak of the Korthak announced that humanity was now considered a threat to galactic peace. Any human ships found in Council space would be destroyed without warning. Trademaster Vailnara declared an economic blockade. No Council species could trade with humans. Any species that helped humanity would face severe punishment. Elder Zexthal spoke last. His ancient voice carried across the galaxy as he pronounced humanity's sentence. "The human species has shown its true nature," he said. "They pretend to be peaceful while planning genocide. They offer gifts while preparing for war. They are a cancer that must be removed before it spreads." As the council session ended, Sarah managed to send one final message to human space. 3 words that would echo across every human world. "They betrayed us." Admiral Marcus Webb sat alone in his command chair, staring at the ruins of New Geneva on his main screen. Around him, his crew worked quietly, their faces grim. In a few hours, the news would reach every human colony. The galaxy that had welcomed them with open arms had cast them out. The species they had tried to help had branded them criminals. Marcus thought about his daughter and her new husband living on the Mars colony. He thought about the millions of humans spread across dozens of worlds. He thought about the children who would grow up knowing that the galaxy saw them as monsters. Most of all, he thought about the 2 million innocent people who had died to make this lie seem real. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Marcus Webb felt something he had never experienced before. Pure, cold hatred. The aliens had wanted to see humanity's true nature. Soon they would get their wish. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of the Galactic Council chamber. The great dome above her showed the stars, but they felt cold and distant now. Around her, the 12 alien species sat in judgment. This was not the same chamber where humanity had celebrated just months ago. That room had been filled with hope and friendship. This room was filled with anger and fear. The evidence speaks for itself, Elder Zexthal declared, his ancient voice echoing through the hall. Humanity has planned genocide against the peaceful species of this galaxy. A holographic display appeared above Sarah's head. It showed detailed military plans that looked like they came from human computers. Plans to attack Zarathi worlds. Plans to destroy Korthak fleets. Plans to take over Valish trade routes. Sarah had studied these documents for hours before the hearing. They looked absolutely real. The computer codes were correct. The military language matched human styles. Even the personal signatures at the bottom belonged to real human officers, but she knew they were lies. These documents are fabricated, Sarah said firmly. Humanity has no plans to attack anyone. We are a peaceful species. War Chief Gorak's massive form shifted in his chair. His armor clanked as he leaned forward. Peaceful species do not build weapons capable of destroying planets. Another hologram appeared. This one showed the energy technology that humanity had shared with the Council, but now it was being described as a weapon. The same device that could power cities could also destroy them. We shared that technology as a gift, Sarah protested, to help end hunger and poverty across the galaxy. A gift that conveniently made every species dependent on human technology, Trademaster Vailnara observed, her blue skin shifting to a darker shade. Very clever. First make us need you, then destroy us when we are weak. Sarah felt frustration building inside her. Every word she spoke was being twisted against humanity. Members of the Council, she began again. I have worked with many of you for years. You know humanity's character? We explore, we learn, we help. We do not conquer, but the evidence kept coming. Recorded conversations between human colony leaders discussing inferior species and necessary expansion, video, footage of humans building military bases in secret locations, financial records showing massive spending on weapons research, all of it fake, all of it convincing. The younger species in the Council looked confused and frightened. The Rillan representative kept looking back and forth between Sarah and the evidence. The Malari delegate had covered her multiple eyes with her tentacles. These species had been humanity's friends. They had supported human membership in the Council. Now they were seeing proof that humans had been lying to them all along. I request an independent investigation, Sarah said desperately. Let neutral parties examine this evidence. They will find it has been manufactured. Elder Zexthal's eyes glowed brighter. There is no time for lengthy investigations. The threat is immediate. Even now, human fleets are moving toward Council space. This was another lie. Sarah knew that the only human fleet movements were rescue ships helping survivors from New Geneva. But somehow the Council had tracking data that showed human ships in threatening positions. War Chief Gorak stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across half the chamber. The Korthak Empire has detected human battle groups near our border worlds. They appear to be preparing for attack. That's impossible, Sarah said. Our fleets are conducting rescue operations. Rescue operations, Vailnara repeated with a cold laugh. A convenient excuse for moving military forces into position. More evidence appeared. Communications intercepts that showed human military commanders discussing attack plans. Sensor data that revealed human ships carrying weapons instead of medical supplies. Sarah realized with growing horror that the three most powerful species had thought of everything. Every human action was being reinterpreted as aggressive. Every human word was being twisted into a threat. The pattern is clear, Elder Zexthal continued. Humanity infiltrated our society, gained our trust, learned our weaknesses, and then prepared to exploit them. The attack on New Geneva was likely a false flag operation designed to give them an excuse for war. Sarah's mouth fell open. They were claiming that humanity had destroyed its own colony. That 2 million humans had been murdered by their own people. That's insane, she whispered. We would never harm our own people. Would you not? War Chief Gorak challenged. Your own history shows that humans regularly kill other humans for territory and resources. Why would you treat aliens any differently? It was true that humanity's past contained wars and violence, but Sarah had hoped that their recent behavior showed how much they had grown and changed. The final piece of evidence was the most damaging. A recording that appeared to show Sarah herself in a secret meeting with human military leaders. In the recording, she discussed plans to use the energy technology as a weapon against Council worlds. Sarah watched herself on the hologram seemingly agreeing to genocide. The voice was perfect. The appearance was exact. Even her mannerisms and speaking patterns were correct. But she had never attended such a meeting. She had never said those words. This recording is a fake, she declared. I never said any of those things. The technical analysis shows no signs of alteration, Veilnara reported. Voice patterns match your biological signature perfectly. The younger species were now looking at Sarah with fear and disgust. The Rillan representative was whispering urgently to his aide. The Molari delegate had moved her chair farther away from the center of the chamber. Sarah realized that the three powerful species had not just framed humanity for planning genocide, they had made it look like she personally was one of the main conspirators. I call for an immediate vote, Elder Zexthul announced. Humanity must be stripped of all galactic privileges and contained before they can carry out their plans. Second the motion, War Chief Gorak rumbled. Agreed, Trademaster Veilnara added. The vote moved around the chamber quickly. One by one, the species voted to condemn humanity. Even some of their former friends voted against them, fear overwhelming their previous loyalty. The vote is 11-1, the Council's AI announced. Humanity is hereby stripped of all galactic citizenship and banned from Council space. Only the youngest species, the Molari, had voted in humanity's favor. Their delegate spoke with a trembling voice. We do not believe humans would do such things. They have always been kind to our people. Elder Zexthul's glowing eyes focused on the young alien. Your innocence is admirable but dangerous. Humanity has deceived many species. Do not let them deceive you as well. War Chief Gorak stood again and made a formal declaration. Any human ships found in Council space will be destroyed without warning. Any species that aids humanity will be considered enemies of galactic peace. Trademaster Veilnara followed with her own announcement. All trade agreements with humanity are void. Economic sanctions will be enforced against any species that continues commerce with human worlds. But Elder Zexthul saved the worst for last. Humanity has shown itself to be a cancer in the galactic body. We have tried to treat this cancer with diplomacy and integration. These methods have failed. His ancient voice grew cold and final. The time has come for more direct treatment. Sarah felt ice in her veins. The old alien was talking about extermination. You cannot simply murder an entire species, she said, her voice barely controlled. We can, and we will, if necessary. Zexthul replied calmly. The safety of trillions of innocent beings across the galaxy is more important than the lives of one dangerous species. Security forces began moving toward Sarah. She realized they intended to arrest her, probably to use as a symbol of human treachery. She activated her emergency transmitter and spoke quickly into it. This is Ambassador Sarah Chen. The Council has voted to destroy humanity. The evidence was fabricated. The attack on New Geneva was their doing. They betrayed us. The security forces reached her and grabbed her arms. As they dragged her away, she shouted one final message. Tell Admiral Webb. They wanted to see our true nature. Now they will. In the depths of space, human colonies received Sarah's final transmission. On dozens of worlds, people gathered around communication screens and listened to their ambassador's words. The galaxy had cast them out. Their friends had abandoned them. Their enemies had framed them for crimes they did not commit. Humanity was alone, surrounded by species that wanted them dead. For most civilizations, this would have been the end of the story. But humanity was not most civilizations. In his flagship above the ruins of New Geneva, Admiral Marcus Webb listened to Sarah's message and smiled grimly. The aliens thought they knew humans. They thought humans were just another weak species that could be bullied and destroyed. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The news spread through human space faster than light itself. Every colony, every station, every ship received Ambassador Chen's final message within hours. The reaction was immediate and violent. On Mars, workers in the great underground cities stopped their jobs and gathered in the central squares. Their voices echoed through the tunnels as they chanted for revenge. On Europa Station, the ice miners shut down the extraction platforms and demanded weapons to fight back. On the agricultural world of New Kansas, farmers abandoned their fields and marched to the recruitment centers. Across dozens of human worlds, the same scene played out again and again. Peaceful civilians transforming into something harder and more dangerous. Admiral Marcus Webb watched the reports streaming in from across human space. His communication officers were overwhelmed by the flood of messages. Every colony commander, every ship captain, every local leader was asking the same question. When do we strike back? Marcus had expected anger. He had expected demands for justice. But what he saw shocked him. This wasn't blind rage or chaotic revenge. This was something far more frightening. Humanity was organizing for war with cold, methodical precision. Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived on Marcus's flagship 3 days after the Council's betrayal. She had been on Earth when the news broke, but had immediately taken the fastest ship to join the fleet. Marcus met her in his private office. Elena looked tired, but her eyes burned with an intensity he had never seen before. The research is complete, she said without greeting or small talk. All of it. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What research? Elena smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. For the past 15 years, I've been studying every species in the Council. Their biology, their psychology, their culture, their weaknesses. The Council thought I was doing it for peaceful cultural exchange. She pulled out a datapad and placed it on Marcus's desk. I was actually preparing for war. Marcus looked at the datapad. It contained detailed files on every alien species humanity had ever encountered. But these weren't normal scientific studies. These were military analyses, Zarathi physiology, vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies that could disrupt their nervous systems. Korthak psychology. Their honor-based culture made them predictable and easy to manipulate. Valish biology. Their advanced metabolism required rare minerals that could be easily poisoned. Elena, Marcus said slowly, how long have you been planning this? Since the day we first made contact with aliens, she replied. I've spent my entire career learning how to kill them efficiently. This wasn't the Elena that Marcus remembered. That woman had been a peaceful scientist who loved learning about other cultures. This woman was something entirely different. What changed you? He asked. Elena's expression grew cold. I read human history, Marcus. Every time our species encountered another group, we eventually fought them. Wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion. It didn't matter what we started with. It always ended in violence. She stood up and walked to the window that showed the ruins of New Geneva. I knew that first contact with aliens would follow the same pattern. We would try to be friends. They would pretend to accept us. Then they would try to destroy us when we became too strong. She turned back to Marcus, so I prepared for the inevitable. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What exactly did you prepare? Elena's smile grew wider. Everything. Over the next week, ships began arriving from across human space. Not just military vessels, but civilian craft that had been rapidly converted for war. Cargo haulers carrying weapons instead of goods. Passenger liners filled with soldiers instead of tourists. Mining ships equipped with planet-cracking equipment. But the most disturbing arrivals were the science vessels. Dr. Elena Vasquez had not been working alone. For 15 years, teams of human scientists had been secretly developing weapons designed specifically to fight alien species. Weapons that used each species' biology against them. Electromagnetic pulse bombs tuned to Zarathi neural frequencies. Psychological warfare programs designed to exploit Korthak honor codes. Biological weapons that would target Valish metabolism. Marcus watched the weapons demonstrations with growing unease. These weren't just military tools. They were instruments of genocide. Elena, he said after watching a test of the anti-Zarathi neural disruptor. This weapon would kill every Zarathi on a planet. All of them. Yes, she replied calmly. That's what it's designed to do. We can't commit genocide. That makes us as bad as them. Elena's eyes flashed with anger. They murdered 2 million of our people, Marcus. They framed us for crimes we didn't commit. They want to exterminate our entire species. Her voice grew cold again. I'm simply giving them what they deserve. Marcus realized that the aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had expected humanity to collapse when cut off from galactic civilization. They thought humans would beg for mercy or hide in fear. Instead, they had awakened something much worse. The transformation wasn't limited to weapons development. Human society itself was changing. On every world, civilian governments were being replaced by military administrations. Democratic debates were being replaced by strategic planning sessions. Children were being taken out of regular schools and put into military training programs. Artists were abandoning their work to design propaganda. Scientists were leaving peaceful research to develop new ways to kill aliens. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed happy about these changes. Marcus received a message from his own daughter on Mars. She had been a teacher before the betrayal. Now she was training to pilot combat spacecraft. "Dad," she said in her recorded message, "I know you're worried about what we're becoming, but they tried to murder us all. They succeeded in murdering millions of us. Someone has to make them pay." Her face was hard and cold. This wasn't the gentle woman who had taught children about art and literature. This was a soldier preparing for war. The same transformation was happening everywhere. Peaceful farmers were becoming weapons experts. Gentle doctors were researching biological warfare. Kind teachers were training child soldiers. Humanity was becoming a species designed for one purpose: revenge. The aliens' own surveillance systems brought them reports of these changes. The Zarathi analyzed human communications and found them filled with plans for retaliation. The Korthak detected massive military buildups on human worlds. The Valish tracked huge shifts in human economic activity, all focused on war production. But instead of being alarmed, the three species felt satisfied. This proved they had been right about humanity's aggressive nature. The humans were finally showing their true selves. What the aliens didn't realize was that this wasn't humanity's true nature. This was something entirely new, something that had never existed before in the galaxy. They had created a species with nothing left to lose. Marcus stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet that had assembled around him. Over 3,000 ships from across human space, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. But it wasn't just the size of the fleet that impressed him. It was the determination of the people operating it. Every human in the fleet had the same expression Elena wore: cold-focused and absolutely ruthless. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's the President." President Chen appeared on the main screen. She was Sarah's older sister, and the resemblance was obvious. But where Sarah had been a diplomat who believed in peace, the President was a politician who understood power. "Admiral Webb," she said formally, "I am authorizing Operation Reckoning. You have full command authority over all human military assets. Your mission parameters are simple. Make them pay." Marcus nodded. "Understood, Madam President." "What are our rules of engagement?" The President's expression grew cold. "There are no rules, Admiral. They wanted to see humanity's true nature. Show them." As the transmission ended, Marcus looked around his bridge. Every officer was watching him, waiting for orders. For most of his career, Marcus had been a defensive commander. His job was to protect human colonies and trade routes. He had always tried to avoid unnecessary violence. But the aliens had changed the rules. They had proven that peaceful coexistence was impossible. They had shown that only strength mattered in the galaxy. Marcus activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Attention all ships," he announced. "This is Admiral Webb. For too long we have tried to be the galaxy's friends. We offered gifts, shared knowledge, and sought peace. In return, they murdered our people and declared us monsters." He paused, thinking about the 2 million dead on New Geneva. "But if they want monsters, we will give them monsters. If they want to see humanity's true nature, we will show them exactly what humans are capable of when we have nothing left to lose." The fleet began moving, 3,000 ships heading toward Council space, carrying weapons designed to kill specific alien species and soldiers trained to use them. Behind them, on dozens of human worlds, billions of people worked day and night to support the war effort. They built weapons, trained soldiers, and prepared for a conflict that would determine whether humanity survived or died. The galaxy had betrayed them. Now humanity would return the favor, but this time the betrayal would be final. The attack began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard, time across 47 star systems. Simultaneously, Elder Zexthal was in his meditation, chamber on the Zerathi homeworld when the alarms started screaming. He had lived for over 800 years and had never heard such panic in his people's voices. Elder! His aide burst through the door without permission. The humans, they're here. Zexthol moved to his viewing window and looked up at the sky. 3 of his world's moons hung in their normal positions, but something was wrong. They were moving. Slowly, but definitely moving toward each other. Impossible, he whispered. His communication system activated with an incoming message. A human face appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Marcus Webb, but he looked different from the recordings Zexthol had seen. This man's eyes were cold and dead. Elder Zexthol, Marcus said calmly, I want you to look at your moons. Zexthol looked up again. The 3 moons were definitely moving closer together. If they collided, the gravitational disruption would tear his planet apart. What have you done? Zexthol demanded. We've given your moons a little push, Marcus replied. Nothing permanent yet. But in 72 hours, they will collide with each other. The debris will rain down on your world for the next 1,000 years. Zexthol felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. This is impossible. Your species does not have this technology. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're right. We didn't have this technology 6 months ago. But you taught us an important lesson about how quickly things can change. The screen split to show other scenes. Warchief Gorak's massive battle fleets trapped in artificial gravity wells, their ships being slowly crushed. Trademaster Vailnara watching her economic networks collapse as human cyber weapons turned her own systems against her. You wanted to see our true nature? Marcus continued. So we studied your species for 15 years. We learned your weaknesses. We prepared weapons specifically designed to kill you, and then we waited. Zexthol's ancient mind raced. You planned this, all of it. The technology sharing, the friendship, the integration. No, Marcus said firmly. We genuinely wanted peace. We really did offer friendship. But you taught us that peace is impossible, so we adapted. The human admiral stood up and moved closer to his camera. You have 72 hours to surrender the 3 individuals responsible for the massacre at New Geneva. Yourself, Warchief Gorak, and Trademaster Vailnara. They will face trial for genocide. And if we refuse? Zexthol asked, though he already knew the answer. Then your worlds will share New Geneva's fate. The transmission ended, leaving Zexthol alone with his fear. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously at every major council system. Not to invade or occupy, but to hold entire planets hostage. Warchief Gorak screamed orders at his subordinates from his trapped flagship. How did they do this? How did they coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy? His science officer's voice shook as he answered. Sir, they've been planning this for years. Maybe decades. Our intelligence networks never detected any of it. Gorak looked at the crushing walls of artificial gravity around his fleet. His most powerful warships were helpless against this technology. Weapons that had conquered a dozen species were useless against human engineering. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving transmissions from our home worlds. Human fleets are there too. They're holding our families hostage. Gorak felt his warrior's pride crumble. He had built his reputation on never backing down from a fight. But this wasn't a fight. This was an execution. Trademaster Vailnara watched her life's work disappear in real time. The vast economic networks that she had spent centuries building were being systematically destroyed by human cyber attacks. But it wasn't random destruction. The humans were specifically targeting the systems that supported the 3 conspirator species, while leaving other council members mostly untouched. They're sending a message, her aide observed. They could destroy everyone, but they're only destroying us. Vailnara's blue skin had turned almost black with stress. How long until total economic collapse? At this rate? 6 hours, maybe less. The scope of the human operation was staggering. They had infiltrated every major system in council space. They had identified every weakness, every vulnerability, every pressure point, and they had done it all while appearing to be peaceful explorers. But the most shocking revelation came when the council convened an emergency session. The 9 species that had not participated in the conspiracy found themselves facing a very different situation. Their worlds were not under attack. Their fleets were not trapped. Their economies were not collapsing. Instead, they received a personal message from Admiral Webb. To the innocent members of the Galactic Council, his recorded message began. Humanity does not consider you our enemies. 3 of your species betrayed us and murdered our people. They are our targets. You are not. The young Malari delegate who had voted against humanity's expulsion was crying as she listened. However, Webb continued, you have a choice to make. You can stand with the murderers who deceived you, or you can stand aside while we deliver justice. Choose carefully. Elder Zexthal appeared before the emergency council session as a hologram. His physical body remained on his homeworld, watching his doomed moons move closer together. Honored colleagues, he began, humanity has revealed its true nature at last. They are not seeking justice. They are committing genocide, but his words rang hollow. The other species could see the surgical precision of the human attacks. They were targeting the 3 conspirator species exclusively. No innocent civilians had been harmed. War Chief Gorak's hologram flickered as power fluctuations hit his trapped flagship. We must unite against this threat. If we allow humanity to destroy us, they will come for you next. The Rillan representative spoke quietly. You said humanity was planning to attack us all. Where is the evidence of that now? They could destroy our worlds as easily as yours, but they haven't even threatened us. Trademaster Velnara's image was distorting as her communication systems failed. They are manipulating you! They want to divide us? But the young Malari delegate stood up, her multiple eyes bright with tears and anger. You lied to us, she shouted. You murdered innocent humans and then made us vote to condemn them. You used our fear to turn us against our friends. One by one, the other council species began to understand what had really happened. The evidence against humanity had been too perfect, too convenient. The timing had been too precise. They had been manipulated into betraying their allies. As the emergency session continued, reports kept coming in. The human attacks were escalating. Sarathi cities were being evacuated as the approaching moon collision created massive tidal effects. Korthak fleet commanders were begging for rescue as their ships were slowly crushed. Violish trade hubs were going dark as their economic systems collapsed completely. But still, no other species was being targeted. President Chen appeared before the council as a hologram. Her resemblance to the murdered Ambassador Sarah was obvious and painful. Members of the council, she said formally, humanity is prepared to accept the surrender of the 3 war criminals responsible for the New Geneva massacre. We have no quarrel with the rest of you. Elder Zexthal's voice was weak as his world's gravity began to fluctuate. You cannot simply murder entire species. That makes you no better than us. President Chen's expression grew cold. You're right. We could never be as bad as you. You murdered innocents for political gain. We are executing war criminals for justice. She gestured to someone off-screen, and Admiral Webb appeared beside her. Admiral, she said simply, show them our mercy. Webb nodded and activated his fleet communications. All ships implement Phase 2. Across the galaxy, human weapon systems came online. Planet crackers that could destabilize stellar cores, antimatter bombs that could sterilize worlds, biological weapons that could kill specific species. The scale of human preparation became clear. They had built enough weapons to destroy every major world in Council space. They could commit genocide on a galactic scale, but instead of using these weapons, Webb gave a different order. Target the leadership compounds only, minimum civilian casualties. The attacks that followed were surgical strikes of incredible precision. On the Zarathi homeworld, orbital bombardment destroyed only the government buildings where the war criminals were hiding. On Korthak worlds, only military headquarters were targeted. On Valish trade stations, only the command centers were destroyed. The message was clear. Humanity could kill everyone, but they chose to kill only the guilty. As his government complex burned around him, Elder Zexthal finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. Humanity hadn't been planning conquest. They had been planning justice. The difference was that justice was far more terrifying than conquest. A human voice spoke through his building's communication system. Elder Zexthal, this is Admiral Webb. You have 1 hour to surrender yourself for trial. If you refuse, we will assume you prefer to die with your conspirators. Zexthal looked around his burning world. His people were fleeing in panic as the gravitational effects of the approaching moons grew stronger. His government was collapsing.